What if I told you that the most productive week of your life could start by banning the word should? You see, you've been trained to think that productivity is about doing more, about grinding harder and forcing yourself to do what you should do. You just kind of get in this trap of believing that if you just had more discipline, you'd finally follow through and do all of those shoulds. But the problem here isn't actually discipline. The problem is that you're building a schedule based on guilt and obligation and not desire and resonance. Really, like this word should be a sign that you're trying to bully yourself into action, that your emotions and your intellect, they aren't on the same page, and that when you're moving from this place, all you can ever do is grind against yourself. And even if you make progress, well, it's not going to last. It's just going to wear you out. And if you were to happen to succeed in doing all of these shoulds, it's never really going to feel right. It's going to feel like you're living just a life of obligation. For 7 days, here's what I want you to do. Okay, I want you to try something radically different. I want you to drop every sense of should from your life. And I want you to build a week that you actually want to live, because this is the big transition we want to make. We want to shift out of should into want. Okay, and so let's break down how this 7-day should detox could go. And honestly, I would love for you to take this further than 7 days, but let's just, guys are scared of this. They're afraid of letting go of the shoulds, and they think everything's going to fall apart. So let me give you some structure for how to engage in this should detox. Okay, first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create 2 lists. All right, on one list you're going to have work goals, and work is basically just things that are a means to an end. All right, you're sacrificing present enjoyment for some future payoff. All right, and there's probably a number of things that in order for you to have a week you really like, you're going to have to engage in this kind of work mode. All right, like, it could be stuff for your job, it could be chores around the house, etc. Because if you just don't do anything productive, chances are you will feel more stressed, things will fall apart, you'll have significant consequences, etc. So of course there's going to be some work goals. Okay, so just make a list of those things, but you want to put them in priority order, with the most important things at the top and the least important things moving down. Pretty simple. So that's first list. Second list is I want you to create a list of recreation goals. Basically, these are the things that you want to do this week that are an end in and of themselves. Like the only purpose in doing them is that they are pleasurable and they let you enjoy your life and they make you want to be present in your life. And this is something where you might actually end up kind of scratching your head, because a lot of guys who come from this should place, they have no idea what they actually like to do. They've spent so much of their energy trying to force all these shoulds on themselves that they actually have no conception of what their downtime actually looks like. They don't know what's fun to them anymore. And because of that, all of their downtime is really just mindless escapism. So I'm asking you to instead approach your downtime with intentionality. What would it look like if you actually had fun things to do? Okay, so make a list of those things and make a list of, prioritize the most fun and interesting of those things, put them at the top, and then, move down the list. Okay, that's the first part. All right, and that's the heart of our strategy. That's kind of like a high level view for what we want to have happen this week during this detox. Okay, now here are the rules for how you go about pursuing this. All right, rule number 1 is that work, the stuff from that work list, it's going to happen in focused blocks with hard boundaries. So basically it's like, instead of just being like, oh, the whole day is for work, it's like, no, I'm going to have a specific amount of time that I'm going to limit myself into sacrificing, right? Like that's only this amount of time will I be sacrificing for my future. And when you do this, it has a very powerful effect in that it makes it so that there's an end. Okay, it makes it so that you're forced to be actually focused. All right, and it also just reduces a lot of emotional friction. You'll be surprised that when you limit your work time, particularly to something reasonable, like if you say 8 hours, okay, you're not going to be able to do 8 hours of focused work. I barely know anyone who does 8 hours of truly focused work. There's so much fluff in that. If you're looking for a simple place to start, maybe it's 2 blocks of 90 minutes. That for a lot of guys, they can get a ton done in that. Maybe you have an extra hour or something for lighter tasks. It all kind of depends on the kind of work you do, what you really need to accomplish, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that you make it as tight as possible. Okay, that's rule number 1. work only in focus blocks with clear boundaries. Rule number 2 is that recreation, fun time, it happens daily, okay? And it must be chosen intentionally. No just mindless wandering on the internet. No just, I guess I play video games and eat junk food now, okay? None of that bullshit, okay? It's like recreation should be intentional, all right? And so you want to plan that out. And so, like, just think about it. That's all, okay? You got to make sure that you're doing it on purpose. All right. Choose the things that you would not only be enjoyable in the moment, but also make you feel good afterwards. Happy that you spent the time doing that, not full of regret or anything like that. And this brings us to rule number 3. Every single day, you're just going to create this plan, following these rules, pulling from your list. So it's like either the night before or the morning of, you make your plan for the day. You plot out, here are my focus blocks. Here's what I'm generally going to do in those focus blocks, probably looking at your prioritized week plan. Okay. And then you're going to be like, here's where I'm going to be having fun, and here's what I'm going to be doing for fun. All right. And so when you do this, then the big piece of it, the big most important part is when you're planning this out, you're viewing it as if I'm trying to create a day that I really want, that I really like. That's it. Not a day that I should have, a day that I actually want to have. And you can tell simply by looking at your plan, what's your emotional reaction to it. If your emotional reaction is, it's like, oh, if there's any kind of grunting and groaning inside of yourself about your plan, then it's not a plan you want. Okay. You're constructing a day that, you're not going to be happy to do. And chances are you probably won't even do it. A lot of guys, they can't actually even follow their plans day to day. I can't tell you how many guys, even if they're significantly productive, they rarely feel like they actually lived a day that they wanted. And, that's insane. Okay, that's insane. Every semi-competent man should be able to construct a plan for his day, follow it, and then be satisfied at the end of it. Okay, and I believe that one of the only ways to reach this is by constructing your days in ways that you want, that you really actually like. Now, as you're going through this, some of the things that might immediately pop up in your mind, or as you're practicing it, like you might be thinking, well, what if I don't feel like working at all? What if I don't want to do any work? Okay, well, my stance on this is that men should naturally want to be productive. I think that's a natural part of being a man, to have goals and to want to accomplish them. So that means putting in the work, making some sacrifices so that you can get some future gain, okay? Now, if you don't want this, that is a sign that something is significantly out of whack in your current lifestyle. And so how do we fix that? How do we find out what that is? Well, the way I see it is that there are 5 main areas that could be out of whack: focus, leverage, discipline, recovery, and alignment. All right. These are the things that I found through coaching thousands of guys over, more than a decade now. Okay. And in fact, I actually put together a quiz designed to help you figure out exactly where you're creating these internal conflicts that make you want to avoid taking action. And so if you want to, figure yourself out, figure out your bottleneck, then just click the link in the description and take the little quiz that we've got there and find out what that bottleneck is, that thing that's making you not want to work. Okay. So just click that link and that'll help you a ton if you're dealing with this feeling or fear of not wanting to work. All right. Now, the next thing that you might be worried about is like, well, what if I fall off halfway through? It sounds good in theory, but I think that, I just can't do this. I know that I'm going to get back to grinding and pushing myself and all this kind of stuff. And frankly, that's part of the experiment. Okay. The point here isn't about perfection. It's about seeing what happens if you try to actually live life on your terms. Where did the shoulds start to sneak back in? What triggered it, right? This will start to expose the deeper circumstances and mindset issues that drive you to live a life that you don't actually want. If you're brave enough to engage in this experiment, this 7-day should detox, there's a few things that I'm really hoping that you're going to discover. Okay, the first one is that, 1, you can actually follow your plans if they resonate. So many guys, they doubt themselves and their ability to follow through because they don't consistently do it, right? They always feel like they're underperforming. They're always missing some part of their plan. They're always kind of just getting, a piece of what they want, but never all of it, okay? But if you set up that plan in a way where the whole thing resonates with you, it feels good, it feels like something that you actually desire, you'll realize, crap, I can actually be highly, good at following through. The next thing I hope you experience is that when you are balanced, when you've got good things to look forward to, and you constrict your focus time to things that are really prioritized, you'll realize that you get way more done with way less effort in way less time. Right? This was mind-blowing to me when I really started to experience it. I was like, shoot, I'm like it's not nearly as hard to reach my goals at a pace that I'm happy with if I set things up like this. I would go so much slower, ironically, when I just felt like I had to overload myself and constantly, grind harder. And so yeah, I want you to see this. I want you to feel how good rapid progress can be. And then the final big piece is that I hope that you can experience that progress is fun. All right. Living a life where you are leveling up and enjoying the journey is actually a fantastic way to live. In fact, it's the best way to live. And it'll lead you to a life that you're, literally enjoying. Like you're on an adventure. You're not trying to get away from it. You're not just clocking in, gritting your teeth, and then just completely unplugging in ways that don't line up with, the man that you want to be. If you're going to do this, if you're brave enough to do this, let me know in the comments that you're giving it a shot. And bonus points to anyone who actually checks back in and drops updates in their experience. I'd be happy to try and, help you with whatever you deal with or whatever comes up. Maybe I'll even make a video about, any issues you run into if you keep me updated. Okay. So I hope this has inspired you to try and create a week that you actually want to live. If you feel like there's some issues, you feel like it's imbalanced, you feel like you can't do this, you're not allowed to do this, there's no possible way you could pull this off, etc. And that, like I said, that means that there's some deeper misalignments going on. And if that's what's going on with you, I would love for you to click the link in the description, take the Frontline Man Score quiz, and figure out what that bottleneck is. What's that thing that's throwing you into a state of misalignment and keeping you from living the life that you're fully aligned with. So click that link. I would love to help you out further. So that's all I have for you guys today. Ooh, yeah. See you on the next one.